The pills scattered across the coffee table like tiny white stars against dark wood. 2, 4, 6. I counted them silently as my sister's words registered through a haze of disbelief. I just gave her something to help her relax, Felicity said with a casual shrug, blocking my path to the stairs. She wouldn't stop twirling and showing off those stupid ballet moves. My 5-year-old daughter, Olivia, lay motionless upstairs, her breathing shallow, her small body unnaturally still when I'd touched her pale cheek moments ago. Adult sleeping pills, in my child's system. The room tilted violently as something primal tore through my chest, part terror, part rage, leaving me gasping for air against the doorframe. The golden afternoon light streaming through the windows felt obscene against the darkness unfolding inside this house. My name is Rachel. I'm 34 and a single mother. This is the story of how I burned down the prison my family built and rescued the only person who truly mattered. You drugged my 5-year-old daughter, I whispered, my voice unfamiliar even to myself, with prescription medication meant for adults. My mother Janet appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her face arranged in that familiar, placating expression. Rachel, lower your voice. Felicity didn't mean any harm. She just wanted to show you that Olivia needs more discipline. The absurdity of her response hit me like physical force. My child was unconscious upstairs, drugged by my own sister, and my mother was worried about my tone of voice. For years, I'd navigated my family's criticisms about my parenting. Since my divorce 2 years ago, Felicity had appointed herself the expert on my choices. According to her, everything I did was wrong, from enrolling Olivia in ballet to working full-time. And my mother, ever the peacekeeper, never failed to enable her behavior. I'd tolerated it all. The subtle undermining, the helpful critiques, the attempts to mold Olivia into the quiet, compliant child Felicity thought she should be. But this was something else entirely. What kind of pills? I demanded, already moving toward the stairs. How many did you give her? Felicity's face flickered with something, uncertainty? Fear? Just 2 of my prescription sleep aids, she said, her voice missing its usual confidence. She'll be fine in a few hours. A few hours? My voice rose, bouncing off the walls of the immaculate living room my mother was so proud of. She's 5 years old. Those pills aren't meant for children. I pushed past her and took the stairs 2 at a time, my heart hammering against my ribs. Olivia lay exactly as I'd found her minutes before, her favorite unicorn plushie clutched loosely in her small hands. Her breathing seemed even shallower now, her skin clammy to the touch. Olivia, I whispered, gathering her limp body into my arms. Baby, wake up! When shaking her gently produced no response, ice flooded my veins. My mother and Felicity appeared in the doorway as I lifted Olivia, her dead weight terrifying in my arms. Now, Rachel. My mother stepped forward, her voice dropping into the reasonable tone she used when she thought I was being irrational. Let's handle this privately. No need to make a scene. Olivia will wake up soon, and we can all discuss this calmly. The words struck a familiar chord. The family motto. Keep it private. Handle it internally. Don't make a scene. How many times had I heard those exact words? When my father's drinking became violent, when Felicity's jealousy turned destructive, when any ugliness threatened the perfect family image my mother had cultivated for decades. Discuss what? I asked, my voice deadly calm as I moved toward the door, Olivia secure against my chest. How my sister drugged my daughter and you're trying to cover it up. I'm trying to prevent you from overreacting. My mother's voice hardened, her mask slipping. Felicity made a mistake, but going outside the family will only make things worse. Think about Olivia's future. Do you want her to be known as the girl whose aunt was arrested? Arrested? Felicity's composure cracked completely, her face draining of color. Mom, you said we'd handle this. Nobody's handling anything, I spat, carrying Olivia toward the front door. I'm taking my daughter to the hospital and then I'm calling the police. You can't. Felicity grabbed my arm, her fingernails digging into my skin. I only did it to show you what happens when you let her run wild. She needs structure, discipline. I looked down at her hand, then back at her face. The sister I'd grown up with, competed with, loved despite everything. In that moment, I saw her clearly for perhaps the first time. The jealousy, the need for control, the belief that she knew better than everyone else. "Let go of me," I warned, my voice barely audible. "You lost any right to an opinion about my daughter when you decided to drug her." "Rachel, please," my mother begged, positioning herself between me and the door. "Think about what this will do to the family. We can work this out ourselves." I looked at them both, my sister, whose jealousy had finally crossed an unforgivable line, and my mother, whose desperation to maintain appearances had enabled every toxic dynamic in our family. "Family doesn't drug children," I said, the words like stones dropping into still water. "Family doesn't cover up abuse, and I'm done pretending this is normal." "If you do this," my mother warned, her voice trembling with anger, "there's no going back." "Good." I reached the front door, struggling to open it while holding Olivia, because I never want to go back to thinking this was okay. As I buckled Olivia into her car seat, her breathing still too shallow, her small body too still, Felicity called from the porch. "You're overreacting. She'll be fine." I slammed the car door and turned to face them one last time. My mother, rigid with anger. My sister, her face twisted with a mixture of defiance and dawning fear. "You know what, Felicity?" I called back, my voice steady now. "You wanted to teach me a lesson. Well, here's one for you. Actions have consequences, and this time you're going to face yours." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 as I got behind the wheel, watching my mother and sister's faces transform from righteous anger to genuine alarm in the rearview mirror. 911, what's your emergency?" "I need an ambulance," I said clearly. "My sister deliberately drugged my 5-year-old daughter with prescription sleeping pills. I'm driving her to Memorial Hospital now, and I want to report an assault on a minor." As I drove away, I could see my mother and sister gesturing frantically in my rearview mirror. But for the first time in my life, their disapproval meant nothing compared to the weight of my unconscious daughter in the back seat. This time, there would be no sweeping things under the rug. This time, I would protect my child, no matter the cost to our so-called family peace. 20 minutes later, the emergency room erupted into action the moment I carried Olivia through the doors. Within seconds, a team of medical professionals whisked her away, leaving me clutching her unicorn plushie and answering rapid-fire questions from the staff. 2 sleeping pills? Prescription strength? About 3 hours ago? My voice shook as I recounted what happened. The nurse's face darkened with each detail. "And your relation to the person who gave her the medication?" "My sister," I said, the word tasting bitter. "My older sister." Dr. Patterson, a pediatric emergency specialist, arrived quickly, her eyes sharp and assessing as she took in my disheveled appearance. "We're running toxicology screens and monitoring her vital signs," she explained, her tone professional but kind. "Mrs. Lewis, I need to be clear. This could have been fatal. Adult sleep medication can cause severe respiratory depression in children." My knees buckled. A nearby nurse guided me to a chair as 2 police officers entered the room. Behind them, I spotted my mother and Felicity trying to get past hospital security. "Let us in," my mother demanded, her voice carrying across the busy emergency room. "That's my granddaughter." "Mrs. Lewis." One officer stepped forward while his partner dealt with my family. "I'm Officer Rivera. We need to take your statement." As I described the events, finding Olivia, confronting Felicity, my mother's attempt to contain the situation, my phone buzzed continuously with messages. "Don't do this to your sister. You're destroying everything over nothing. Olivia will hate you for breaking up the family." Officer Rivera noticed my distress. "Would you like us to confiscate your phone as evidence?" "Yes," I whispered, handing it over. "They won't stop." A social worker named Ms. Torres joined us, her kind eyes radiating competence. "Mrs. Lewis, given the circumstances, we're implementing immediate protective measures. No one except medical staff and you will be allowed near Olivia." Through the window, I could see my mother crying dramatically, while Felicity argued with hospital security. The sight that would have once filled me with guilt now only strengthened my resolve. Your sister admitted giving the medication to Olivia. Officer Rivera confirmed, making notes in his pad. Yes, she was proud of it, I said, my voice breaking. Said she was teaching us both a lesson. My mother wanted to hide it. Said we should handle it privately. Ms. Torres made notes. This suggests premeditation and a pattern of enabling behavior. We'll need to file a formal report with Child Protective Services. A commotion outside drew our attention. Felicity had somehow slipped past security and burst into the room. "You ungrateful bitch!" she screamed. "After everything I've done to help you raise her properly!" Officer Rivera moved swiftly, restraining Felicity as she lunged toward me, her face contorted with rage. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault on a minor and now attempted assault. You can't arrest me. I'm her aunt. I was helping." Felicity's voice broke as the reality of her situation finally seemed to hit her. As they led Felicity away in handcuffs, my mother appeared in the doorway, her face contorted with anger and fear. "Rachel, stop this now. Drop the charges," she hissed. "Think about your sister's career. Think about Olivia." "I am thinking about Olivia," I shot back. "She could have died." "She's fine," my mother dismissed with a wave of her hand. "You're just jealous because Felicity's always been better with her than you." Ms. Torres stepped between us. "Ma'am, you need to leave or you'll be removed." "I'm her mother, and I'm Olivia's mother." I stood up, finding strength I didn't know I had. "You both lost the right to be near her the moment you decided drugging a child was acceptable." Security finally escorted my mother out, her threats and pleas echoing down the hallway. Dr. Patterson returned with news that made my heart soar. Olivia was starting to wake up. "She's groggy but stable," she explained. "We'll keep her overnight for observation, but she should make a full recovery." In Olivia's room, I held her tiny hand as she slowly opened her eyes, revealing those familiar blue irises, my eyes in her small face. "Mommy," she mumbled, "I'm here, baby. You're safe now." "Aunt Felicity said I was too excited," she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Said I needed to learn to be quiet. Did I do something bad?" "No, sweetheart," I kissed her forehead, fighting back my own tears. "You did nothing wrong. Being excited and happy is never wrong." Ms. Torres appeared with more papers. "Mrs. Lewis, we're filing for an emergency restraining order against your sister, and given their response, your mother as well. We'll need to schedule interviews to document any previous incidents." Previous incidents, like the time Felicity had accidentally thrown away Olivia's ballet shoes before a recital, or when she cut Olivia's hair during a sleepover because it was too showy. All the little cruelties I'd dismissed as sibling rivalry or family dynamics now revealed themselves as something much darker. "Whatever you need," I agreed. "This ends now." Officer Rivera returned with news that Felicity was being held without bail due to the severity of the charges. My mother had been escorted from the premises after attempting to access Olivia's room through another entrance. As the night settled in, I watched Olivia sleep. Naturally this time, her breathing steady and strong. My phone sat silent in an evidence bag, but I felt no urge to check it. Let them rage and threaten. Let them try to manipulate and guilt me. They'd shown their true colors, and there was no going back. A nurse brought me a blanket and coffee. "You did the right thing," she said softly. "Not everyone finds the courage to stand up to family." I touched Olivia's cheek, remembering her usual vibrant spirit, her twirls and giggles that Felicity had tried to suppress. "Some things are worth more than family peace," I replied. "Some things are worth fighting for." The nurse nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Yes, they are. And tomorrow's another day to keep fighting." 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom watching Felicity's sentencing hearing. She'd finally pleaded guilty after the toxicology reports proved she'd given Olivia not 2 pills as she claimed, but 4, enough to have caused severe harm or worse. The hospital had detected the higher dosage during their testing, which the prosecutor used as evidence of Felicity's lies and the severity of her actions. My mother sat in the front row, still supporting Felicity, still claiming it was all a misunderstanding. She'd spent the past months alternating between threatening me with legal action for destroying the family and sending flying monkeys, relatives, and family friends to guilt me into dropping the charges. I blocked their numbers and emails one by one, creating a protective barrier around our new life. None of it worked. The prosecutor stood presenting the final evidence. Your Honor, this was not a momentary lapse in judgment. Ms. Wilson deliberately obtained prescription medication, crushed it into a child's drink, and watched as that child lost consciousness. When confronted, she showed no remorse, stating she was teaching them a lesson. Felicity sat there in her expensive suit, tears streaming down her face, the same performance she'd been giving since her arrest, but I'd seen her true face in that moment at my mother's house, the satisfaction when she'd watched my daughter lie unconscious. Furthermore, the prosecutor continued, investigation has revealed a pattern of concerning behavior toward both the victim and her mother. We have documentation of multiple instances of tampering with the child's belongings, psychological manipulation, and attempted parental alienation. My mother shifted uncomfortably. She'd been named in the investigation too, though not charged. The authorities had documented her role in covering up Felicity's escalating behavior over the years. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, studied the papers before her. Ms. Wilson, please rise. Felicity stood, her lawyer's hand on her arm. What you did was not just criminal. It was a fundamental betrayal of trust. You used your position as an aunt to deliberately harm a child, not in a moment of passion or confusion, but in a calculated attempt to exert control. The judge's voice was steel. I sentence you to 5 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You will undergo mandatory psychological evaluation and treatment. Additionally, a permanent restraining order will remain in effect, protecting both the minor child and her mother. My mother's wail echoed through the courtroom. Felicity's composed facade cracked, showing the rage beneath. "This is your fault," she screamed at me. "You ungrateful, attention-seeking—" "Remove the defendant," the judge ordered, and bailiffs led Felicity away. Outside the courthouse, my mother made one last attempt. "Rachel, please, she's your sister. Family forgives." I turned to her, feeling oddly calm. "You know what, Mom? Olivia forgave me for letting this happen for so long. That's the only forgiveness I needed." "You've ruined everything," she spat. "I'll never forgive you for this." "I know," I replied, "and I'm finally okay with that." Later that evening, I watched Olivia at her new ballet studio, twirling with abandon, her face bright with joy. After months of therapy, she was finally dancing again, her confidence returning bit by bit. "Mom!" she called, running over during a break. "Did you see my pirouette? Miss Kimberly says I'm getting better." "You're amazing, sweetheart." I hugged her, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling her solid and warm and alive in my arms. "Is Aunt Felicity going away for a long time?" she asked suddenly. "Yes, baby, she can't hurt you anymore." She nodded, thoughtful. "And Grandma. She's not allowed to see us either, remember?" "Not until she understands what she did wrong. The restraining order the judge granted means she has to stay away from us for at least 3 years. Like when I have to sit in timeout to think about my actions?" I smiled at her simple wisdom. Exactly like that. After ballet, we went home to our new apartment across town. I'd moved us within weeks of the incident, changing my phone number and email address to cut off the barrage of messages from my mother's enablers. I'd left our old address completely behind, making sure they couldn't simply show up at our door. Olivia's room was decorated with dancing butterflies and fairy lights, a far cry from the sensible decor Felicity had always insisted children should have. As I tucked her in, Olivia asked, "Mom, are you sad about not having a sister anymore?" I sat on the edge of her bed, considering how to answer. "I'm sad about not having the sister I wish I had," I said finally, "but I'm not sad about protecting you." "Like how you're my protector in the story we made up?" "Yes, just like that." After she fell asleep, I sat in our small living room looking at a new message from my mother that had somehow reached my new email. Felicity's lawyer says she can get out early with good behavior. You can still fix this. Families should stick together. I deleted the message without responding, then added her new email address to my blocked senders list. She must have gotten it from one of our distant relatives who I'd kept in touch with. The divorce from my ex-husband had been finalized 3 years ago, giving me sole custody of Olivia, which meant my mother had no legal means to force contact. On my wall hung Olivia's latest art project, a drawing of us as superheroes standing tall and strong. The Brave Girls, she'd titled it, with a rainbow arching over our heads. My phone buzzed again, but this time it was Ms. Torres, the social worker who'd become a friend, heard about the sentencing. "How are you holding up?" "We're good," I texted back. "Really good." And we were. We lost a family, but gained ourselves. Olivia was dancing again, laughing again, being a child again. I was standing taller, speaking louder, being the mother she deserved. Some would call it a sad ending, a family torn apart, relationships severed. But sitting there, listening to my daughter's peaceful breathing from the next room, I knew better. This wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning. The chandelier's light caught the exact moment of my sister Brittany's smirk as she turned to the wedding planner. "Don't seat her anywhere near the front," she announced, loud enough for everyone in the ballroom to hear. "She doesn't belong there." A wave of laughter rippled through her bridesmaids, a cruel symphony disguised as giggles. I didn't drop anything or gasp. Instead, my fingers curled into my palm with such force that my engagement ring cut into my skin, the small pain anchoring me as heat flooded my face. The wedding planner's clipboard lowered slightly, her professional smile faltering as her eyes darted between us. Suddenly caught in family politics she hadn't been warned about, I felt dozens of eyes slide over me, like I was a stain on the venue's immaculate floor. "My name is Emily, I'm 32 and an investment strategist. This is the story of how I stopped being invisible in my own family." I'd spent years perfecting the art of fading into backgrounds, at family gatherings, holiday photos, and especially at Brittany's milestone moments. Each time she'd find some new way to remind everyone I was the lesser sister, the plain one, the quiet one, the one who would never quite measure up. I'd learned to swallow humiliation like medicine, bitter but necessary for keeping the peace. "Come on, Britt, don't be harsh," one bridesmaid muttered weakly, but the damage was already done. Brittany waved her off like I was nothing more than background noise at her grand rehearsal. Just when I thought I could sink no further into the polished marble floor, a hand landed firmly on my shoulder, strong, steady, deliberate. The laughter died instantly. I turned my head slightly, and standing beside me was Nathan Pierce, the tech investor nobody expected at a wedding rehearsal like this. His tailored navy suit looked carved from midnight, his presence cutting through the mockery like a blade. I'd met Nathan 6 months ago when he approached me about investment opportunities, and we'd been quietly dating for the past 3 months, though I hadn't introduced him to my family yet. Another part of my life I'd kept separate from Brittany's constant belittling. "Tell them who you really are, now," he said, voice dropped low yet carrying to every corner of the room. Every eye locked on me, every laugh died mid-breath. My pulse hammered against my ribs, my throat tightening, my heart caught between dread and a fire I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. Brittany's face twisted, her smirk vanishing as her rehearsed confidence slipped. For the first time in years, I lifted my chin. The silence in the ballroom stretched tight as a violin string. Brittany recovered quickly, tossing her perfectly styled hair with a laugh that tried too hard. "Oh, come on. Are we really doing this? She's just Emily, my sister who's always lurking in the background. Don't make her out to be someone important." The word lurking stabbed deeper than any insult she'd thrown before. Guests shifted uncomfortably, their earlier laughter now hollowed out by tension. Nathan's voice cut through the air. "Funny," he said evenly, his gaze sweeping across the crowd, "because from where I stand, it looks like the only person in this room with actual dignity is her." A murmur rippled through the space. My head snapped toward him, lips parting in disbelief. No one, absolutely no one, had ever stood up for me like that in front of Brittany. Brittany's fiancé, James, finally spoke, brow furrowed. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but maybe we should stick to the rehearsal." "We don't need to," Nathan interrupted, his tone so calm it was terrifying. James froze, sinking back into his chair. "Emily," Nathan said softly, for me alone this time. "They don't get to define you. You tell them, or I will." My chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to stay quiet, to fade back into the shadows like always. But something in his eyes, sharp, unrelenting, yet patient, ignited something inside me, a spark I'd kept buried for too long. I took a slow breath and stepped forward, my heels striking the floor with purpose, each click echoing louder than the whispers. "You've all spent years treating me like I'm nothing," I began, my voice initially unsteady but gathering strength with each word. I looked directly at Brittany, the bridesmaids, the cousins who had always whispered behind my back. "But maybe that's because you never bothered to see me for who I really am." Brittany scoffed. "And who exactly are you, Emily? You work in some dusty office. You wear secondhand clothes. You show up where you're barely wanted. Don't act like you're suddenly somebody." Gasps circled the room at her cruelty, but Brittany only lifted her chin higher. Before I could answer, Nathan stepped closer, his presence like a storm at my back. "She's not just somebody, Brittany. She's the reason half of you even have jobs." The air cracked open. Confusion spread through the guests like wildfire as they whispered to each other, eyes darting between Nathan and me. Brittany blinked rapidly, her smirk finally gone. "What are you talking about?" I turned to face her fully, my voice no longer trembling. "I'm not the failure you've painted me as my whole life. I've been working in silence, building, investing, and last month..." My chest rose and fell, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Last month, I became the majority shareholder of the very company you brag about to your friends." The room erupted in shocked gasps. Brittany stumbled back a step, face draining of color. "You're lying. That's impossible." Nathan's lips curved into the faintest smile. "I should know. I was the one who sold her the final shares." The room froze. Even the air felt different. Thicker, charged, alive with scandal. Brittany's fiancé muttered something, but she silenced him with a glare. I let the silence hang, allowing every person to absorb what they'd just heard. For the first time in years, I didn't lower my eyes or shrink away. I met Brittany's stunned gaze, my voice steady and sharp as glass. "So the next time you tell people where I belong, remember this. While you were busy tearing me down, I was busy climbing higher than you ever imagined. After years of careful investments from my earnings as a strategist, I built enough capital to make a move when your company's shares became available during the recent restructuring." Murmurs of approval spread through the guests. Brittany's face contorted with fury, replacing shock. "You think this changes anything? This is my wedding. You'll never be more than a shadow standing in the back." Nathan leaned closer to me, his hand brushing mine in the smallest, most grounding gesture. "Emily, you don't need to stand in the back anymore. Let's show them where you truly belong." Every heart in the room seemed to pound louder, waiting for my next move. The room buzzed with disbelief, conversations clashing like 1,000 whispers colliding. Brittany's perfect posture crumbled, her nails digging into the lace of her dress as her voice cracked through the noise. "You don't get to walk in here and hijack my moment," she spat, eyes wild, darting between Nathan and me. "This rehearsal is about me, not you, so quit pretending you matter." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. His silence was louder than thunder, giving me space to speak for myself. For the first time in my life, I didn't shrink under Brittany's fire. I stepped forward, dozens of guests leaning closer, some whispering my name like they were suddenly learning who I was for the very first time. "You're right. This is your rehearsal, and I didn't come here to steal your spotlight." I paused, letting the tension build before I continued. "But you stole mine a long time ago. You've been smirking, mocking, and tearing me down at every turn because you thought I'd never rise high enough to fight back." Gasps rippled across the room. A bridesmaid shifted awkwardly, her hand falling from Brittany's arm as though she wanted no part in this anymore. Brittany laughed sharply, but it was thin and brittle. "You think money makes you better than me? That's all this is, money. Without it, you're still the same pathetic girl standing in my shadow. I straightened, heat surging through my chest, but my voice remained deadly calm. Money didn't change me, Brittany. Silence did. Every cruel word you threw at me became fuel. Every door you slammed shut, I pried open myself. While you were busy playing perfect daughter, I was building something real, something no one, not even you, can take away. A hush fell over the crowd. This time, no one laughed. Not even the cousins who used to whisper about me behind their napkins. Nathan stepped forward, his presence shadowing Brittany as much as it supported me. His eyes locked on her, cold and unreadable. You've embarrassed your own sister in front of your family, your fiancé, and your guests. That alone shows who doesn't belong here. Brittany's lips parted, but no words came out. James stood abruptly, his face flushed. All right, enough. This is ridiculous. Emily, billionaire or not, this isn't the time or place. You're making a scene. I turned to him slowly, my voice sharp. She made a scene when she told your ushers not to seat me near the front. She made a scene when she decided my worth could be mocked publicly. I'm just finishing it. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some nodded in agreement, others exchanged glances. The tide was turning, and I could feel it. Brittany's hands trembled at her sides, her armor finally cracked. You'll regret this, she whispered harshly. I tilted my head slightly. I already regret every year I let you step on me without fighting back. Her eyes flashed with fury, but Nathan stepped closer, his voice like steel in the quiet. She won't be stepping on you anymore. Not now. Not ever. Brittany snapped. Her hand shot out, grabbing a champagne glass from the nearest table. She didn't throw it, but slammed it down hard enough that it cracked, liquid splashing across the linen. Gasps rang out. James grabbed her wrist before she could do more, muttering for her to calm down. The sight of Brittany unraveling, the golden bride-to-be cracking in front of her guests, wasn't as satisfying as I'd imagined. It was tragic, but I didn't flinch. I turned to the guests, my voice carrying across the hushed room. I never asked for this moment. I didn't come here to outshine my sister, but maybe it's time you all stop pretending that cruelty disguised as humor is acceptable. Maybe it's time we stop letting laughter cover for cruelty. Silence followed. Even the chandeliers seemed to hum with the weight of my words. Nathan touched my arm lightly, steadying me, silently asking if I wanted to walk out and leave the chaos behind. But something in me refused to back down. I looked straight at Brittany, whose perfect image was crumbling before everyone's eyes. If you really believe I don't belong here, I said, my voice low but strong, then maybe it's you who doesn't belong in my life anymore. The room froze. Brittany's chest heaved, her eyes wide as the words sank in, deeper than any dagger could. With that, I stepped away, every gaze following me, every whisper chasing me, but none of them mocking anymore. For once they weren't laughing. The ballroom no longer belonged to Brittany. The whispers circling through the guests weren't about her dress or her big day. They were about me. My name slipped from lips in disbelief, shock, even admiration. Brittany's perfect world was crumbling in real time, her bridesmaids keeping their distance, the groomsmen avoiding her eyes. You can't do this, Brittany snapped, her voice high and brittle. You can't come in here and ruin everything. This is my moment. Nathan's eyes narrowed, his tone colder than ice. No, Brittany. You ruined it the second you decided to humiliate your sister in front of everyone. Actions have consequences. You just never thought yours would catch up. The guests shifted uncomfortably, some nodding in agreement. James looked at Brittany with a mix of embarrassment and disappointment, his jaw clenched as he muttered, Enough, Brittany. You're embarrassing yourself. She ripped her arm away. Embarrassing myself? She's the one making a fool out of everyone. She thinks money makes her untouchable. Stop. My voice cut cleanly through hers. I didn't raise it, but the command in it silenced her instantly. This isn't about money. This is about respect, something you never gave me. I stepped closer until there was no space between us. Every eye remained fixed on the scene, no one daring to interrupt. You've spent your whole life tearing me down, Brittany, but here's the truth. You only ever felt big because you thought I was small. The moment I stopped lowering my head, you had nothing left. Her face drained of color, the fury in her eyes flickering into something raw, fear. The crowd gasped when Nathan moved beside me, his presence overwhelming as his voice remained calm and final. Emily doesn't need to prove herself to you anymore, but if you need proof, look around. This entire room just watched you try to destroy her and fail. Brittany's lips trembled, her power slipping completely away. I turned slowly to address the guests. I don't want your pity. I don't need anyone's approval, but I won't let cruelty pass as entertainment anymore. Not from her, not from anyone. The words echoed heavily. Some guests lowered their heads in shame, while others nodded firmly. The balance had shifted completely. James spoke again, his voice sharp. Brittany, if this is who you are, humiliating your own sister, lashing out at everyone, maybe I should reconsider walking down that aisle. Gasps erupted. Brittany's knees seemed to buckle, her hand gripping the back of a chair to steady herself. James, you can't mean that. But his silence said everything. I didn't gloat or smirk. Instead, I stood taller, the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. For once, I felt free. Brittany's voice broke. You'll regret this, Emily. You'll regret humiliating me. I leaned in just enough for only her to hear, my voice steady and final. No. The only thing I regret is giving you the power to humiliate me for so long. That ends tonight. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't stay to watch her crumble. I turned, Nathan falling into step beside me, the entire room parting as we walked toward the exit. Heads bowed, whispers followed us, but no laughter, not anymore. As the heavy doors swung open, Nathan's voice dropped low, only for me. You don't need their validation, Emily. But after tonight, they'll never forget your name. The air outside was crisp, the night sky endless. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I glanced at him, my chest still tight with adrenaline. Why did you step in back there? His eyes softened, the steel in them easing. Because I saw someone worth defending, someone who didn't realize she already had the power to defend herself. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not the polite, forced smile I wore to survive, but a real one. Thank you, I whispered. He shook his head. Don't thank me. You did that on your own. All I did was remind you who you really are. And as we walked away from the glittering ballroom, leaving Brittany and her unraveling world behind, I knew he was right. I wasn't the shadow anymore. I was the storm they never saw coming. 2 weeks later, I received a text from James. He and Brittany had postponed their wedding indefinitely, and he was taking time to reevaluate what kind of person he wanted to spend his life with. As for Nathan and me, we decided to make our relationship public. No more hiding in the shadows in any part of my life. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.